do really, really like this Heartbreak Hotel song before. I think I might have seen it before. I mean, it says it's 6 years old. I don't trust the dates on the videos, but it says that some of her videos, it said that I'd seen her before or watched it, but I don't know, because I think I've only been naming angels for the last 3 years, and I might have seen it before that time. I don't really know, but yeah, it is it's a very, very strong topic that I have, and it's something that I've been promoting for 11 years, which is that, there's that film where there was paralysed people from the war or something, and they were just basically in incubators, being forced to keep alive. It's horrible. Forced to be alive by resuscitations. All those people just locked in tiny boxes, basically, not able to do anything, and not even allowed to die. I just think that's this is one of the strongest things. This is one of the reasons why I find humans so revolting. You would blame God or the universe for doing terrible things, and yet you would have no ability to recognize that what you have done is a terrible thing. And just thinking about that film and the images that I'm remembering from it, where there's just people in caskets, basically, with their heads sticking out of something, their bodies completely destroyed. The only reason why they're alive is because there's some monitor that's feeding blood through some sort of system and keeping them alive through it, and then to just leave them in that condition for months. I really hope that that's just a lie, and that this isn't true. You didn't do that to people. Like the desperation of trying to keep people alive was so more important that you didn't give a shit about the suffering that they were going through every single day, knowing that they were just being kept a hostage, a prisoner by people. Like, sex trafficking is a terrible thing, because you get people that are able and to do things, and then you drug them or force them into some sort of sex brothel, and you don't let them leave, and you threaten them and you scare them. And it's just, you think about that and you think, how much different is that to what doctors are doing to their patients? If you know someone's terminally ill and that they're going to die, you try and help them. And say the cancer gets worse, their pain is worse, and their suffering is worse, and then that they ain't gonna survive. Whether they live a month, a year, 2 years, they're going to be dead within 2 years. And even though they just go through more and more and more and more suffering, you keep wanting to force treatments on them, expensive things. Their loved ones, their relatives, their family are left with hundreds of thousands of pounds of debt that they can't afford to pay. So these people basically become slaves for the treatment that they were trying to do. I've heard of kids getting ill and their parents just spending whatever they can to save their kids, even though their kids are suffering, even though their kids want to die and want to give up, and just want this, want to not have to live with this constant belief that, they could be dead tomorrow. And then to have on top of that, them wanting to die, and then people putting shame on them for wanting to die, making them think that they're in the wrong for wanting to die. That Holby City thing that also came into my head, where there was, a doctor who had someone came into her office, attacked her, she was left paralysed, and she was in a hospital bed, unable to move, and they were basically making her feel guilty about wanting to die. I want to die. And then they're like, how dare you say that? How dare you say that? And I just want to slap those fucking doctors. How dare you say that? A woman is lying paralysed, knowing that she's never going to walk ever again, and you think it's fine to shame her and make her feel bad for wanting to die when her life is on, her life is ended, her life is suffering, her life is going to be based solely on other people spending huge amounts of money on her and caring for her and feeding her, and people that have respirations and they constantly just pushing to live, and then other people are putting shame on them for wanting to die. And I think it's so sick, and it does remind me of those birds that just get shoved in that, like that bird trap, that quail bird trap, where there's birds falling into a hole, and then the flap that they fell through kind of closes, and therefore they don't see the hole any longer. The second the flap is closed, the other birds have gone through it. The quails just no care. they keep eating, they keep thinking that that's not going to happen to them, and then they do fall through that hole, and then it happens again and again and again. And this is what it reminds me of, just people going through this, horrible. How would you like it if everything was taken away from you, and you basically alive only because of some sort of monitor keeping you alive? And it's okay if you're going to be healed. I have heard of cases where people are said that you're never going to walk again, you're never going to do this again, and then 6 months later, they're healed, and it's fine. And therefore, because of this, I don't want, if someone wants to live, I don't ever want to tell someone, it's best for you to die, because what happens in 6 months' time, if they are healed and then they start hating me for being like, oh, you almost killed me, I would have died if I would have taken your advice, I would have died, and it turns out I did survive. If you're in that position and you want to live, you have a right to live, and therefore I wouldn't want to tell anyone, yes, you'll be better off dead. I mean, I can say I think you're better off dead, providing you are going to be like this. I said that about that girl who was paralysed and was barely able to move, and he fell out, who kind of either was opened a door and either got sucked out or jumped out of a moving car, and she's now paralysed. And if she heals herself in 6 months, and she'll probably look back and think it was worth the pain. But if in 6 months' time she isn't better, if she survives for another 12 years, the longer she survives and doesn't actually heal, and doesn't actually get better, doesn't actually gain any kind of life, she's only going to look back and regret her decisions. And that is how I feel. I wish I would have killed myself when I was a child. I wish that I didn't survive boarding school. I wish that I had have killed myself in all the many times that I've tried over my life, because I realised how shit my parents were. I wish I would have done this, and it's just each time I feel like I just decided to live a little bit longer, just push myself a little bit more, and each time it's just amounted to absolutely nothing. And I don't feel like I've ever had any reason to be like, oh yes, I'm glad I lived through that. I'm not glad I lived through that, And I think that's the saddest thing when it comes to people who are paralysed or people who are terminally ill. You could push through lots and lots of pain, and maybe you'll get some sort of enjoyment. If you've got kids that you're living for, if you're a grandparent and you want to know what happens, maybe if you would have died, you wouldn't have known that your child goes on to have another child or whatever, and so sometimes it's worth the pain, but sometimes it's not worth the pain, and you end up just regretting your life. That Superman guy, if he would have known that if he would have just died, or been allowed to die when he had that accident, and he didn't have to put himself through 12 years of being paralysed, would he have changed things? Maybe he would have done, but all the doctors around were forcing him to live and saying that this is the right choice. And was it really the right choice? No, I don't think it was. And I think there's so many people that are going to find themselves in this same trap, thinking that it's fine to pressurize people to live even though they've got no chance of actually having a normal or decent life ever again. People that come out of burnt houses with their whole life skin destroyed, and having to go through countless amounts of money on just trying to regain basic facial features. It's horrible, and I've seen so much of this, and I feel like these doctors are in a way just pimps. You're forcing your clients to be alive just so you can make a bit more money out of them, make a bit more money out of the parents or the family members that are paying to treat them and to keep them alive, and you're making money out of all the people that are donating money. They probably could donate the money to other people. If the dog's in hospital and that dog is terminally ill, why spend lots and lots of money on healing him if he's just going to die? If he died and you knew that was going to happen either way, it'd be better for you to spend your money on other things. And I feel like there is a huge amount of money that goes into people who are terminally ill or paralysed, and it leads to people spending the money on you rather than on other people whose life just needs a little bit money, and then they can heal something that, there's some kids in Africa that just need £2 to fix some sort of eyelids that have gone inwards or something, and then £2 can like save their whole life, and or save their eyesight, and make them not suffer in agony every time they blink. So some things like that are small and easy, and yet there's other people that can have just huge amounts of money being spent on cancer treatments. And okay, these projects do need funding, because they, over time, you get better cures, better treatments. One of the kids on that plane that time traveled by 5 years, there's another 5 year loop there, he had leukemia, and he was about to die, and they were going to this place, to New York or somewhere, for treatment to heal himself, then there was the plane time traveled 5 years in the future, and there was completely different medicines, and he was able to heal himself, or there was more cures for it. So I know that spending a lot of money in these things is not all bad. The more people that spend money in trying to fix these things, the more cures you will find, and solutions can become from these problems. But sometimes you have to think, is the suffering really worth it? Is a person's trauma and daily suffering, when they're probably not going to be healed, when their chances are very, very slim, is it really worth it? Even if you are able to gain your body's movements after 6 years, was it really worth being locked in your own body for 6 years? I've heard of cases like that, where people are locked inside a body for a very, very long time, and over time they are able to move their hands and move their legs, and it's and okay, they might be healed after 20 years, but you have to think, was it really worth that? Or should they have just given up, and been given a new body, and not had to face any of that trauma or that problem? And people need to be smart when it comes to it, and I can't make the decision, because I don't know the future. I mean, I feel like something in me can see the future, but if you're spiritually connected, I feel like you would be able to make the right decisions. But so many doctors are not spiritually connected. They're just thinking about, life is more important than suffering. We're pro-life, even though the life that we're trying to save is probably just going to end up, being brought up as drug addicts, or in the foster care system, or just ending up hating their life because their parents didn't want them, and were only having them because they were forced. This is such a big problem. But anyway, I am feeling quite paralysed today, and I don't really know where it's come from. I feel like the energy of some of these singers kind of rubs off on me, and because I'm analysing the Angel of the Paralysed, I feel like it's having an effect on me mentally. But anyway, this is Angel of the Paralysed and mentally ill. Oh no, terminally ill. So that was I just want to try and that line was, pour yourself a glass to dive into. Sorry, I've forgotten what I was saying. I'll just say it again. Pour yourself a glass of tears to lift you off the ground. So it's kind of like saying, sometimes accept that death is inevitable and it's going to happen, and you have to use this to lift you off the ground. E.g., you have to say, I'm going to accept death, I'm going to lift my soul up off the ground, and I'm going to go wherever the Matrix wants me to go. And sometimes you need to accept that you are not going to be healed, and you might just spend the next 12 years lying in a bed doing absolutely nothing. I believe that this girl was likely that Superman guy who spent 12 years in a bed. I guess that girl there looks paralysed and not able to even stand up or anything. That one looks like she's fallen off the bed. I think if you are paralysed, you might find yourself falling off the bed and needing basic help around you to try and get you back up or turn you off. And the other girl, the other one looks terminally ill, e.g. someone that's just got something inside of her that can't be cured, and she's just constantly going through chemo or fighting, or this is what it shows. So that's saying one of them looked paralysed, and the other one just looked very sad, looking in a mirror. In fact, actually, that reminds me of something EastEnders. I think it was Peggy Mitchell had or was it Pat? It was Peggy or Pat. They were looking in a mirror, and why can't I see who it was? I feel like it's both of them. Yeah, they had terminal illnesses, and sometimes it just makes you feel really sad knowing that you're going to die. But the weight of when, the weight, is it going to happen tomorrow? Is it next week? Is it next month? This weight just seems like an hourglass. She's got a song about an hourglass where you're just ticking. Is it tomorrow? Is it tomorrow? And okay, you can enjoy time, but if you're in pain, it's not nice. And sometimes it's nice to be like, I want to take my own life into my own hands, and I want a doctor to help me. And this is why it's so important to legalize assisted suicide. Saying that you won't love it. You won't love it. Welcome to the Heartbreak Hotel. That's a hospital or a care centre or an old people's home where you just are just going to be being bedridden and just controlled by everyone else around you. And those pills, I think, are the pills that either you have to take because of all the drugs that you're forced into taking to try and heal you and help you even though it's not, or they could be pills that could end your life and make you stop this constant suffering and stop your pimps from just making money out of you by taking all your inheritance. There's a lot of people that have a huge amount of inheritance, and then they go through this very long, slow process of death. And then there's no inheritance money to be given to their families, to their loved ones, because they've spent it all on this completely unnecessary care that they didn't want and they didn't need to face, didn't want to face, because it just made them feel depressed. And I think actually there's a line in there about not remembering who he is or something. I think she would have written it as in a partner or something, but I think is talking about, I think that could be a link to dementia and forgetting who's actually looking after you and who's caring for you. Dementia is a very horrible terminal illness that gets worse over time, and people are forcing people to go through this. Just like nights of sleeplessness where you can't sleep at night, stay up all night, lose your mind, doctors are loving you right, but are they actually making your life better, or are they just making you fear life because you know that life is so cruel that it just doesn't care about the suffering that you go through? You won't love it. Falling down and can't get up. Again, another reference to having an accident and not being able to stand up afterwards. When you've had enough, it messes you up. It messes up your mind. It messes up your ability to care about others. It messes up your state of mind. And even when you die and come back, you'd still feel this anger. I'm feeling this anger in this video. So I feel like whatever she's gone through, it's something that, she keeps with her. And I can feel that anger because I feel it in me too. That bath represents a sort of quail trap where lots of quails were just falling inside this hole, and this round hole, and one by one they were all going in there, and they weren't paying attention to the others that were falling in. They were just not believing that would be something that they would have to face, and it is. And I've got a feeling that maybe some of these dancers have gone through a similar kind of thing. Lots and lots of people have been through being in a sort of semi-paralysed or paralysed state, and whether it's a year, a week, years, many years, the whole life. Some people are in this all their life, you know. Is it right? No. But it happens. It happens to a lot of people. And that's that quail trap. That bath represents the quail trap of it just happening to more and more people, and people not being able to recognise that sometimes keeping people alive when they're not happy is not, it's not the right thing. It's not moral. Moralness is allowing people to make the choice, saying that you're not an animal. You deserve to learn to be able to take your own life, and if you're paralysed, you can't do that. You can't take your own life. You can't pick up a gun. You can't get hold of a gun and stuff. So. That's the intro. I'm gonna stop. You got what I was saying.